We can have a conversation here.
Andrew, you don't have.
You're still spurging, bro. You're still spurging.
You're deflecting.
You're screaming at the top of your lungs. Calm down so that we can talk, bro. You're spurging.
You're gaslighting.
I'm trying to give you the argument.
I'm not screaming. You're gaslighting.
Then why won't you let me speak, Parker?
In this video, Andrew Wilson debates some dopey kid named Parker that I think the left is recently trying to prop up. Andrew Wilson debates the economy with this kid, and it doesn't go well for him. With that, let's watch Andrew Wilson demolish a smug leftist that didn't realize what he'd gotten himself into.
Gonna be very sad, very bigly sad.
Hi,
How old are you?
Hi, Parker. How you doing? I'm 40.
You voting Trump?
I am voting Trump, yeah.
Why so?
Well, because his economic policies assisted the Midwest in a huge way due to his corporate tax cuts and what it allowed, because there was such a huge stranglehold by Democrats, especially in this state, with localization of taxes, especially in industry. It allowed them to get what they needed the most, which was access to capital, and assisted them in expanding. It was extremely helpful. And I'm hoping that he'll start making moves back to similar economic policies, which would help the local trade.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a question. In terms of the corporate tax rate that it's at, can you name me one point in American history that you'd point to where the corporate tax rate was that low, where we saw like good effects on the economy?
Yeah, during the Trump administration.
Okay, I'm referencing other than the Trump administration.
Yeah, but why would that? I don't understand why that's a non sequitur. During the Trump administration, well, hang on. During the Trump administration, I just gave you my argument. My argument was that businesses in the Midwest needed to have access to capital.
Yeah. So listen, if you actually, I can send you a paper from a liberal and a conservative economist from Harvard that actually indicates there was only 0.04% annual GDP growth, specifically from the tax cuts.
Yeah, but do you recognize
$1.9 trillion of debt-related spending?
Well, I'm happy to respond to this.
$28 billion to the economy.
Let's say it only. Well, I'm going to explain.
Yeah, the left likes to demonize corporate tax cuts and then spin it as Trump just wants to give money to his rich buddies. But they don't understand the effects, the positive effects that those tax cuts had on the economy. And when this kid asked Andrew, can you name a time in history where similar sized tax cuts had a positive effect on the economy, Andrew says, yeah, during Trump's administration. He's like, how about another time? And he said that's a non sequitur because when you say during Trump's administration, that's the most relevant time because that's the most recent time. So we've seen the effects of those corporate tax cuts. And Andrew's saying I'm voting for Trump because I believe it will give businesses in the Midwest access to more capital. And we've seen it work already. Trump's first term in office has been an argument of mine for Trump being president again because there were so many positives. The Democrats tried really hard during election season to act like nothing was accomplished under Trump's administration. So I can see this kid already starting to flounder. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
In the middle of my sentence?
Well, okay, so the thing is that you're throwing out more red herrings, but I'm willing to respond directly to this.
What's a red herring?
Well, so you're trying to get me to look at something that's beside my point.
It's not beside your point. I was currently making a point. You cut me off.
Well, can you respond to my point? The GDP would have nothing to do with what I said, zero.
So, okay, so if the corporate tax cut was beneficial, it would have caused an increase in the GDP, right? Increase in the overall
well, it did. By your own admission, it did. You just don't like how much it did.
By 0.04%.
Yeah, so
Andrew,
why would that matter for the localization in the Midwest?
It added 0.04% to the annual GDP.
So it added to the GDP,
which is about $28 billion per year.
Yeah.
So it nowhere near paid for
itself. How does that address my point, Parker?
To justify the spending.
How does that address my point? Can you steel man my argument for me so I know you understand it?
Yeah, so you think that it builds up American manufacturing?
That's not what I said, Parker. What did I say? I said in the Midwest, specifically inside of the Midwest, which is where all the automotive plants.
I said Midwest.
Yes. So can you address what the Midwest growth looked like, Parker?
Well, I was referencing the.
Yeah, I know what you're referencing. You're referencing a red herring. Can you reference what the Midwest growth was? Yes, it was. What the overarching GDP would be a reference from all 50 states. Many of them have Democrat controllers. They have their own tax brackets. They have all of this. What I'm asking,
but it's from the
hang
tax
on,
cuts
bro,
and jobs
I'm
act.
asking specifically
Listen, Andrew,
if you
it's the
can
effect
address my point for the Midwest
It
specifically,
was the effect on the GDP according to the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act.
which has what to do with my point, Parker?
1.9 trillion is not justified, given that it only added
Has
$28 billion
nothing
to the
to do with my
The
point.
$1.9 trillion of spending is the overall country spending this, and then it only added 28 billion per year.
Okay,
right to
Parker,
it.
first of all,
Okay, that's very low.
he
Very
muted
low
me.
ROI, right? Very low. So why would we use the money to do this rather to invest in other things in the economy?
Okay, so Parker, you still aren't actually addressing my point. When you're specifically looking at
Answer my fucking question.
well,
or
you're
I'm
not
gonna make
answering
you
to
answer the
mine.
question.
You don't get.
Oh, you're so mad.
You're
you wanna answer the question?
refusing to answer mine,
Do you need a Kleenex, Andrew? Answer
bro.
the damn question.
Bro, why are you
I
not
answered your
answering to
question
mine?
already. I addressed it. I
Okay,
said
how?
the economic growth that specifically comes from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is minuscule to the amount of money that we put into spending for it. So if you want to put money into investments, put money in investments that give you better ROIs than 0.04%
Yeah,
annual GDP
okay.
growth due to 1.9 trillion.
Parker, that doesn't address that doesn't address my argument, Parker.
I addressed it. I addressed it directly.
You're still
what
spurging,
was the
bro. You need to
economic
calm
growth?
down.
I
Stop
asked-
spurging.
No, listen. I was looking at the economic growth specifically from
Yeah,
the tax
that's
policy.
not. That doesn't address my argument, Parker.
If you like watching videos like this one, like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
It does. That
Okay,
addresses
how
the
does that? How would
argument
that address
exactly.
my argument, Parker?
Yeah, because it references the economic growth that comes from the tax policy that you referenced.
Yeah, but you're talking about the national GDP. The national GDP is not going to directly address the Midwest because each state has its own economy. So you could have two states, for instance, that could sink the GDP based on certain.
Andrew, I understand what you're
Parker, it's my turn.
I'm talking
Parker,
about the effect of the
Parker,
policy,
why
so
won't
I'm
you
not
let me talk,
referencing other
Parker?
effects.
Why won't you let me
Because you're
talk?
dumb.
You're still
Because you're dumb.
spurking.
I'm talking
Oh,
about
now we're getting into
other
insults?
effects that you're referencing. I'm not counting those because I'm only referencing.
Now,
what
now,
comes
now we're going to insult
from the-
Parker. You're going to insult.
I'm only talking about what comes from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Okay, so I'm not referencing any of the other impacts on the economy. I am specifically looking at a paper from a liberal and conservative economist that highlights the effect of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. You are not.
Yeah, that has
implementing what I'm
nothing to do
saying.
with my argument, though.
That has everything.
It has nothing to do with
What the
it.
fuck are you talking
It
about?
has nothing
What are
to
you
do with
talking
it.
about?
Parker,
Analyzing the
Parker,
effect of
did
the
I
tax
what?
policy has everything to do
Parker,
with
stop
your
spurging. Calm
argument.
down, so we.
I like Andrew Wilson a lot, but I have to admit, I'm embarrassed to say, I don't know what spurging is. I'm sure I can just do a quick Google search and figure that out. But if any of you know, let me know in the comments. Yeah, this Parker kid has nothing because all he has is prepackaged talking points. He can only talk, macro level economics, where Andrew's specifically saying, hey, I like Trump's corporate tax cuts because of the effect they had on the Midwest. But Parker keeps bringing up some paper he wants him to read and talking about the GDP, and that has nothing to do with the reason why Andrew said that he is voting for Donald Trump. I think one of the most cringy / irritating things in the world is like when this Parker dope said, oh, are you going to cry about it? Do you need a tissue? Like, he has absolutely nothing left to say. All his talking points are done because Andrew was just telling him to address his specific question or answer to his question, and he wasn't whining or anything at all. And then he insulted, I can't remember what he said, but he insulted him later. Anytime you see that in a debate, that is the telltale sign that you've lost the debate and you are out of things to say. This is just embarrassing for this kid, but I bet he's so aloof that he thinks he's doing a good job in this. I don't think he even realizes why he's so off base with the answers he's giving and the points he's making. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
We can have a conversation here.
Andrew, you don't have.
You're
any idea
still
what you're talking
spurging,
about.
bro. You're still spurging.
You're deflecting.
You're screaming at the top of your lungs. Calm down so that we can talk, bro. You're spurging.
You're gaslighting.
I'm trying to give you the
I'm
argument.
not screaming. You're gaslighting.
Then why won't you let me speak, Parker?
I am letting you speak.
Okay,
You're just
great.
not
So
acknowledging my points.
yeah, because
Is the cap.
because you can't move and deflect from what my argument
I'm not
was.
deflecting, genius.
You
know what
asked why.
deflection is.
Okay, did you ask me why I was voting for Trump?
I did.
Okay,
you
and
said
did
specifically the benefits from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in terms
For
of
what?
the Midwest.
Yes.
The Midwest growth.
Yes.
What you're not acknowledging is that the Midwest is a part of the United States.
Parker, I didn't know that. Is the Midwest part of the United States, Parker? I had no idea.
Did you know?
I had no idea,
that, like,
Parker.
There's also other manufacturing in the United States.
Yeah, it doesn't address my argument, Parker. Doesn't address my. It just mutes me.
Does address your argument because it looks at the overall effect of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act.
You're like an NPC, bro.
Right now, you're fucking screaming into the mic.
No, you are, bro. You're an NPC.
You have no understanding of economics. I'm
NPC
right now citing a paper. I'm citing a paper from a liberal and conservative economist, bipartisan support that shows that you're wrong.
They just
you have no source. You just sat up here. You said, "What's the effect on the Midwest?" I'm looking at the overall effect of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. It's
not on the Midwest, though.
The effect is on the Midwest. We're looking at what the effect is.
I gotta say, as irritating as this kid is, I kind of hope he does get a little bigger on the left, and we start seeing him in more debates, because he is going to be fun to dunk on. He is so out of his league here. Every word he spoke in response to Andrew's answer as to why he's voting for Donald Trump was pure deflection. Andrew called it out perfect. But we want to know what you think. As always, that's just my opinion, and I'm certainly open to admitting that I'm wrong. Do you think Andrew Wilson dominated this kid like I do, or do you think the kid made some great points and I'm totally missing something? Let us know. Anyway, as always, we really appreciate you watching, and we will see you on the next one.